One of the things my dad once said to me, he said, it's a difference between bowling or competing not to lose versus competing to win. Because some of
Wow.
us, we do things not to lose.
Yeah.
So we play a very protected game. And don't get me wrong, I think even from my own personal experience, I've learned, that's where discernment comes in, right?
Yeah.
Of knowing when to kind of press the envelope versus when to just, take your shot, anything like that, and be aggressive. But I really love that, he said that to me. Actually, one of the most profound things he told me, going back to my point about, me just kind of talking about and complaining about kind of not having enough. My dad said this very simply. He said, man, if you want this, you want to go take it.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
can't just keep asking people just to give this stuff to you. You gotta just go take it from them.
Yeah.
I made it come up. I made it come up. I made it come up.
Welcome, everybody. Listen, guys, this is another episode of Interviews with Your Brand Man, and I got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. One Shot at a Time himself, Mr. Brian Gaines, y'all. So wherever you are, in your cars, in your cubicles, in your houses, if you're watching this on your phone, please give this man a round of applause wherever you are, because this dude, man, is low-key a genius. Like he like low-key genius. Like, he's an inspirational speaker. He is a professional bowler. He is an author. He is many things, an entrepreneur, and he does all of these things very well. And it seems like he doesn't break a sweat doing it, but he says otherwise, but I don't see him sweating. And he lives and goes by the grace of God each and every step of the way. One Shot at a Time is his book, and his is pretty much his brand. But I love how he just goes about getting his brand to market. And so he's going to tell you all about his stories. But for now, once again, give him a round of applause. And please, Brian, can you tell the people, introduce yourself to the people, tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like your intro did a pretty good job, but I mean, just to give the quick background, I always say I was that kid that was too cool for the smart kids, but also too corny for the popular kids. So, when I was in middle school, just struggle fitting in, and had a friend of mine who told me he had won scholarship money from a bowling tournament. And I mean, from everything kind of comes from there. Like, once I had that opportunity, I've always wanted. At that time, I always knew I wanted to go to college, but I also knew that my parents made it very clear that, they weren't going to just be, cashing us out necessarily. So, just the fact that I could, win scholarship money from this thing called bowling that I had been doing for probably 9 years before that, but never really taking it seriously. Just to have that opportunity, went all in on it, became a state champion. You know, I think is
Yeah, y'all
funny
see how
because
he says that real lightly. That's what I was talking about. Become a state champion. Of
because that was a long journey though. It wasn't like a overnight thing. That was about a 4 or 5 year journey.
Facts.
So a lot of watching YouTube videos, you know, 2 hour practices, like intentional practices too. Like, I talk about that in my book, that oftentimes, not even just in bowling, sometimes we think that we're just, when we're doing things, that we're practicing, and that's not really the case. I had to learn that actually from an opportunity I got a chance to go to. It's called the ITRC. It's called the International Training and Research Centers, where they train Team USA at. And they really emphasize the importance of intentional practice, like
Mm,
working on a specific thing for a set amount of time, taking a break, and then coming back. But more times than not, especially even for myself, when I would go into bowling alleys, I used to work at bowling alleys too. I would see people working on, like, they would say that they're practicing, but they would really be bowling for score. Meaning, like, they would be seeing how high they could score. And more times than not, when I was practicing, my practices never looked good. I got to a point where I learned how to make the practice look good. But more times than not, you would see me on like one knee, doing these they're called one step drills, where you don't even do like a full approach of like starting, like picking up the ball and like going to the line. You would just pick up the ball, walk to the line, stop, swing the ball, and try to finish in a good balanced position. And your ball is only going maybe 7 miles per hour down the lane, but you're not really worried about the result. You're not really worried about how it comes off your hand. You're simply worried about practicing balance, creating that foundation. And doing things like that over a long period of time, that's what got me to that state championship level. I've also bowled a couple 300 games, Just for
Light
those
work.
for those who don't know, a perfect game in bowling is 12 strikes in a row, so basically all strikes, and it's called a 300. Less than 1% of the world has thrown those, and I have I actually just threw my 16th, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So yeah,
Y'all see what I mean? Not even breaking a sweat, a couple 300s here. I'm lucky if I get a turkey when when I'm bowling.
That's the funny thing is more times than not, especially since now I speak in schools, I always because I have to because bowling isn't necessarily like people know about bowling, but they don't know about bowling the way that I know about bowling. So to try to put my success in their language, I always say, okay, do you guys know what it's called when you knock down all the pins? And they'll say a strike. And I'll say, well, do you know what it's called when you get all strikes throughout the whole game? I can't lie about this. More times than not, people say a turkey, and I'm like, no, that's only three.
That's three,
Like
yeah.
there's 10 frames, and actually, if you throw, not to get too technical in the bowling, but if you throw a strike in that 10th frame, you actually got two more chances, and that's where you get the 11, 12 strikes. So I mean, yeah, 3 strikes is a turkey, 12 strikes is a perfect game, and it's not a very easy feat to accomplish. So yeah.
Well, practice makes perfection, man, and one step at one shot at a time. And so we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, good brother, I just want to take it back. I want to take it back to you to the beginning, Brian Gaines as a youngster. What got you, like you mentioned that you got into bowling as a way of getting into college. And so prior to that, were you into any other sports? Were you into bowling? How did Brian Gaines become the Brian Gaines? Like, take us back to your childhood all the way up till now. Just, walk us through the story.
Yeah, no, so I was very fortunate, man. I had a very involved dad, so and I think I started off with probably baseball and bowling. That's how it started off. Played T-ball when I was 6 years old. And I was always good at hitting the ball, right? So I always had that, but never really found a position on defense, right?
Mm,
So, you know, even though I was bowling, I was playing baseball, and I had this dream goal, however you want to put it, to go to college too, also too. For whatever reason, I can't remember what age I realized this, but I understood that college costs money. So I kind of realized like, okay, I don't know where this money gonna come from, but they got these things called scholarships. So even before it was bowling, I was playing baseball at what I considered a high level. Then I
mm,
got to high school baseball, and that's kind of where things kind of stopped at because then that's when I found bowling. But I played basketball too. Actually, had a basketball court in the back of my house. Played basketball, I think in my eighth grade year of middle school, and you know I could shoot. I always tell people I could shoot. Something like Steph Curry before he was Steph. You know what I mean? But couldn't play defense there either. So both baseball and basketball, the offense never was the issue for me as far as getting the ball into the hoop, or in baseball like hitting the ball. The issue
mhm.
always came with the other side of it, playing defense. And I
Yeah.
always joke, I said, why they make these sports with defense? You know what I mean? They conspired against your boy. So, and I was a little bit more overweight back then too. Shoot, actually, I probably put on some pounds now, but I was a chunky kid growing up too, so I had asthma. So, those sports that really required a high level of cardio, just it just didn't suit me very well.
Yeah.
So, when I did hear that I could earn scholarship money from bowling, I don't even know what about it clicked, but I mean, basically, my dad took me and a couple other kids to a tournament the next weekend to kind of see what it was about. And once I saw that it was a real thing, it was just like, okay, baseball, done with you, basketball, done with you. We're all focused on bowling. And yeah, I went, even when I'll talk about going all in, right? There's,
Yeah.
there's, there's a power in going all in, whether people, I think, unfortunately, we live in a world, sometimes I deal with it too, but we do too much multitasking, and we have too many things that we're doing at the same time, but we want to be great.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you could probably be good at a lot of things, but it's going to be hard to be great at multiple things at the same
Same
time.
time. Yeah. It's virtually impossible.
Right. So,
Yeah.
because it takes effort. It took me 4 to 5 years to get to that point of state champion, multiple 300 games, multiple tournament wins and things that nature. A lot of studying, a lot of practice, and to be honest, we only got 24 hours in a day. So I actually learned this. I didn't know that I did this back then, But when I first got into business, I had my first mentor. He told me the importance of making a decision. And,
Mm,
I feel like, unfortunately, even I would say even right now, I think even in my life right now, more times than not, the difficulty in my life comes when I'm not willing to make certain decisions, meaning I'm not willing
mm.
to decide to do something, which means I'm also deciding not to do something else.
That's a
So,
big fact. That's a big fact. I want to interject really quick and just ask, when you said that your dad took you and a couple of friends to this tournament, what age was that?
oh, I was 15, 16.
15, 16. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
probably I would say I was about 15 years old when my dad started taking us to tournaments.
And now, was
Like
your dad an
like
avid bowler as well?
pretty much, yeah. So he
Okay.
he grew up bowling. I believe his grandfather, I'm sorry, his father, my grandfather, taught him how to bowl. So that's how I got started at a very young age. I started when I was 6.
Got you.
So but I didn't start taking it seriously until 15.
Gotcha. 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 So you're taking it seriously. Your dad's getting you around to these tournaments. Is this around 15 when you're thinking, okay, this could be something that could get me into college, or were you just kind of playing around with it at that time?
Oh no, man. I would say I was very much focused. It was, I mean, I don't know. There's something about me, man, where once I once I know that I have something, I give all myself to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I would say probably because I think I had my first job when I was in high school. Around that same time, I was working at an eye doctor's place. Not too long after making a decision about bowling, I was able to get a job at the local bowling alley that was like right up the street from me. You know what I mean? So I was able to start practicing for free. Was Studying the game, working in the pro shop where they drill the bowling balls. Like I would just be cleaning bowling balls for like $2 a ball,
Yeah.
and just soaking up knowledge. Reading books, reading articles, watching videos. Anything, everything bowling. Like I was on it, and I think for me, the cool thing about bowling is they have a scratch and they have a handicap division. And just to simplify it, scratch is basically like, me and you head to head. Not, it's just me versus you, whoever has the best score. But then they have what's called a handicap division where, let's say you are a better bowler than me, and let's say your average every time you bowl, your average of your score is about 200, and the average of my score is about 180. For as much times as we bowl throughout the year, you're a 200 average bowler, I'm a 180 average bowler. In certain tournaments, you would have the option to bowl handicap, where basically you would be giving me 20 pins to make it an even matchup,
Hmm.
right? So even though I have started pursuing this, and honestly, I've learned to love this even in business opportunities, is basically being able to learn while you earn.
Say
You
that
know,
again. That's a
so
good one.
yeah,
Learn
man,
while you earn.
learn while you earn, because that, I'll be honest, I feel like that's what keeps me around.
Yeah.
Even now as an entrepreneur, is that I've been learning, but I've also earned some money too doing
Yeah.
it, which means that there is a possibility. Like, oftentimes when we have those conversations, just the fact that I was able to sell one shirt tells me that I could sell 10.
Yeah.
Just because
Big
I sold
facts.
10 tells me I could sell probably 100. 100 tells me I can sell maybe 1,000. And it's not even so much of it will happen, it's just a possibility. So, even going back with bowling, having a handicap division and getting a few, maybe minor wins, maybe not first place, maybe a fifth place, and getting they used to give us a little scholarship certificate at the end of the day. And you're like, okay, well, if I work a little bit harder, maybe I can get here. If I work a little bit harder, maybe I can get here. And that was just always my mindset. I lost a lot.
Yeah.
I lost. There's a lot of tournaments where you can say, quote unquote, I failed. As a matter of fact, I remember getting to a point while once I graduated from handicap to scratch division and bowling, just more or less just head to head with the whole competition. Like there was a point where I wanted to win so bad, but I kept finishing in second, third, fourth, fifth. Like I couldn't figure out how to be number
Mm,
one. And man, I remember I was in tears,
mm,
like on the bench, just like crying. Like, and mind you, I bowl better than, let's say a tournament had about 50 bowlers. I done bowled better than 48 of them, but you know, it still was hurting that I could not get over that hump. Right.
mm,
And then, because I worked in the bowling alley more times than not, and this is during the social media age too. So I'm posting about my success. People would say, "Oh man, you choking. Why can't you get over the hump? Why can't you do this? Why
mm.
can't you do that?" And like that stuff eats at you after a while, man. You're like, man, what is wrong with me? Like, am I not clutch enough? Am I able to perform in those in those scenarios, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And but what I've learned is once you get that first win, you know, again, it kind of goes right back to it like, oh, I got the one, shoot, I could probably get the second one. And
Yeah,
it
the
becomes more
second
of
time is a little bit better, is a little bit
a
easier. I got two questions. One is, did you find that you were a little bit more focused than your peers, or did you have
oh,
peers that were like kind of on the same level, or were you kind of in the upper echelon of extra focus to the point where you might have kind of got a little separated from your peers? That's one question. And then the second question is, what got you over that hump? Like, what was the clicker? What was that one moment that you got that, you got over your hump and you realized, hey, I can do this again? So two-part question. I had to ask two because we'll go talking and I'll forget the other question.
absolutely. So yeah, so answer your first question, absolutely, man. Because especially since I started, so to maybe the listener hearing it, maybe this is their first time hearing that, young people could earn scholarship money through bowling. Like this isn't something like this was 15 years ago for me, but this is still very much a prominent thing. Like I have a friend of mine who runs a tournament, or actually ran a tournament just recently, and it's called Sprawlings. It's probably in Springfield, I think, close to the
Mhm.
Springfield Mall. I mean, they over in a weekend they gave out over $10,000 worth of scholarship money.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So this is still a thing. So I wanna say that, number one. And number two, to kind of to as far as you asked, where was I more serious than my peers? Yes, because as I got older, I didn't really start winning until I was maybe 17, 18. And really when it really took off was probably 18, 19. So I was a basically now an adult bowling
Mhm.
against younger competition. So the way that bowling worked at the time, I think now it goes up to the age of 19, but at the time it went from the age of 6 to the age of 21. Now again, you still have that handicap division where people could, bowl in that, but you would have 14, 15-year-olds that were talented that would be bowling in the scratch division, bowling mano y mano with me.
Mhm.
And to be honest, they might have had a better. I hope I don't go over somebody's head. They had a better physical game than I did a lot of times. A lot of times in bowling, the more that you can make the ball curve, kind of tells a person, how much power you have, and it looks good, going down the lane, all that good stuff. That really wasn't my game. I was more of a straighter. Like my ball still curved, but it did not have the amount of motion that some of these, younger bowlers throwing it
Yeah.
as hard as some of these younger bowlers, right? But I had a lot of, just a lot of mental things over them, right? So, and like you said, I was extremely more focused. I mean, it got to the point, especially because you talk about me being a little genius or whatever. Like I don't know, man. I once I understood what I had, I was no longer going to a tournament just to have fun.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You were
This
going
this
to
this
win.
this was a business trip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like especially once I started spending my own money for it too. Because yeah, when I first got started, my dad would give me my entry fee. They have these things called like brackets, similar to like the March Madness brackets, but it'll like almost be brackets that are happening during the tournament. So
Yeah.
you can pay extra money to get into those, be extra scholarship money you could win. So man, I've always been good at math. Let's just say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so I understood that no, this is a business trip. I mean, I was so serious that I would practice Monday through Friday. And I remember I even had a girlfriend at one point where she had a birthday party. I think it was her dad's birthday party the next day, and they were going to do bowling. And I was like, "Yeah, I can't do that.
Hmm.
Like, I can't mess up between what I just worked on Friday. I don't have time to play around Saturday before the tournament on Sunday. That's just how my
Wow.
brain worked. You know what I mean? Like, but that's how locked in. That's how
And and
serious I
and
was.
I'm sure she didn't like that.
Oh no, absolutely not. Hey man, I think LeBron James was just talking about on his podcast, man. To be great, it requires sacrifice.
Man, big sacrifice, big sacrifice. So yeah, the second question, what got you over that hump?
What got me over the hump was, if I'm being honest, man, a little bit of luck.
I
I
love
think,
I love that.
I think, I forgot, I can't think of the quote right now, but they say when luck meets preparation, right? But I think just this probably in the last 6 months, I started thinking about the grace of God and just,
Yeah.
you know, I'll be honest. At one point, I thought it was me that was winning these tournaments,
Yeah.
and then I thought about it. Bowling's a type of sport where you can throw the shot exactly where you want it, throw it off your hand exactly where you want it, and still throw a split.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, again, some people may not have that deep knowledge of bowling, but you could really throw the best shot off your hand possible. And because it hits a certain part of the lane, because of the way the lane they put oil on the lanes or whatever, your ball could do something that you were not expecting it to do, and now you got a split instead of a strike. And
Mm,
that could be a difference of, just averaging 15 to 20 pins, depending on where that split happened.
yeah.
Right. So I think even just recently, just thinking about the grace of God, I was like, man, the first tournament I won. Now again, bowling is a sport where zero is the worst score you can have, but 300 is the best.
I got a couple zeros in my life.
Okay. So in a
Just know I'm
tournament,
not the sports guy, yo. I'm the
no,
arts
no, you
guy.
good, you good. No, so in a tournament setting, I would say a 200 to 210 is a solid game. Anything above 220, you're bowling really good. But anything under that, probably 190 range, is not really a good game
Yeah.
for me, right? The first tournament I won, the final score in a title match was 180 to 140. So I didn't even
Mm.
necessarily bowl my best. I just bowled better than the other
The other
person,
guy. Yeah.
and I had a couple of breaks.
Yeah.
But just like you said, getting over that hump. And again, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of practice time put into that, right? At the same time, I got some breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got some, because a tournament would be almost. I mean, if I was bowling a tournament, we would bowl 5 games of qualifying. Then there'd be another 3 games that was called match play, where now you're going kind of head to head, and then there would be a step ladder where basically you sum up all the scores, and it's in the top five. Well, now like it'll be 5 against 4, 4 against 3, 3 versus 2, and then that final match would be against the number 1 seed. And I believe I was the number 1 seed for that tournament, but we had bowled maybe 8, 9 games. There's a lot
Mm.
of stuff that can happen in 8 or 9 games. You know what I mean? So you got to be extremely mentally sharp. So yes, I was in the title match, but man, I definitely had some grace. and,
Yeah.
and once I got over that hump, that's what changed everything.
What was the length of that time? Because I love how you said when luck meets preparation, because I hear and I study a lot of millionaires and billionaires and listen to their talks and their podcasts, and they do talk about the aspect of luck, and it's not that, oh, they just woke up and they were lucky one day. This is something that they've been churning at and working at and practicing and reading and doing and doing and doing. And then they did so much work that they were prepared for the opportunity when it crossed their path, and they were able to take full advantage of it, which is quote unquote luck, right? But then, once that luck kind of strikes and that luck kind of hits it, that thing that you just said happens, where it's just like, oh, I can do this again. So it's not more of you getting lucky again, it's you understanding the fact that when that oil slick hit his ball and didn't hit your ball, but all the practice that you had to even recognize that that was happening, so you knew, oh, I got to tweak my game a little bit right here. So as much as it was luck, all the preparation that you had before then really, made you take off. So the question is, like, how long did that period go? Because I want people to understand that you can be in this slump for whatever amount of time God wants you to be in a
Mhm.
slump for, right? But you mentioned that you were crying on the sidelines, so you must have been not getting over this hump for a pretty long time. So how long was that?
Bro, I got one picture. I should probably send it to you, man. It's a picture of me holding up a fourth place plaque and frowning because I'm just like, I didn't. It wasn't enough for me. I'm just like where when am I going to get that win? So, I mean, that was. I think I didn't get my first win probably until I was maybe 18, maybe 19.
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, it took probably a good at least 2.5, 3 years just to get
Wow.
there.
Wow. And how many tournaments? How many tournaments?
Oh man, you talking probably at least maybe 100, maybe 150. I don't know.
Woo!
We were bowling a tournament almost every weekend, so you're talking about at least somewhere between 30 to 50 tournaments per year. At that,
Woo!
yeah. So yeah, man. We were. I'm grateful for my dad, man, because he's the one that really allowed us to even do that type of stuff. I didn't get my license. I don't think until I was 18, so I wasn't even able to drive myself to the tournaments until then. So, and again, I always tell people like, not only was he driving me, he was driving other kids too. So, having that type of support, and we would have conversations, coming back from tournaments. And I think even he told me, because for those who don't know, bowling is a very white dominated sport.
Mm.
So at times, especially when I was first getting started, I'm like, well, man, I can't afford the same equipment that they got. I'm bowling against kids that, their parents own pro shops, their parents own bowling alleys, their
Yeah.
parents are Hall of Famers. Like I bowled actually against a few like childs of Hall of Fame
Yeah.
bowlers or whatever, right? And here I am, coming from West Philly
Yeah.
with no, quote unquote super level training. I will say I had good coaching, but I mean, a lot of the stuff I got was actually from YouTube.
Yeah.
Like really me just like doing my own studying of like watching professional bowlers. That's kind of even how I wrote my book, was that, you don't necessarily need the person that's right there. It's very helpful to have that person. But if you're diligent enough, you can go and watch, basically game film and say, okay, what are they doing? Right. Especially in this day and age, the social media information age that we live in, you can compile enough data almost to kind of see, okay, what does it look like for like a high achiever to operate, on a daily
Mm.
basis for whatever it is, whether it's bowling, basketball, business. I
Yeah.
mean, you can really study those things. The only thing about that is you also still have to do that. You still have to get the experience. And I think what you were talking about when you talk about that luck, a lot of it's not the luck, and more of it's like once you have a certain amount of experience, you're more composed under certain environments. Certain
True.
things don't shake you the same way as they may be shaking your opponent, or even in the world of just the world itself, don't shake you as a person that's right next to you. So
True.
you may I think I was just talking about this earlier with a client. I was doing a coaching call, and I was saying, I got this quote from my coach. He said sometimes you have to stay strong enough long enough, just staying in the game, staying consistent,
Yeah.
being
Showing
being
up.
being in it, showing up, right? You get used to a few things. I mean, the one thing that I'm grateful for, I guess, even as we're talking, is that's why I love talking, because I think I'm able to see more stuff, like almost kind of have like those out of body experiences when I'm speaking. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, the one thing that I can be grateful for about this year, especially as I'm I guess transferring all this stuff into now entrepreneurship, is that I've actually gotten new challenges.
Yeah.
More or less, I've graduated from some of the other challenges that I was dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, man, it's an experience thing. It's really about, can you stay in it long enough, man? Can you keep going? I think I just coined this phrase. I'm gonna say it for the third time in the last 2 days. Sometimes it's not about motivation; it's just about staying in motion.
Woo, that's a good one, man. You need to get that trademark because it's so true. Like showing up. Showing up is one of the biggest parts. And it's just like today, I mentioned that I was a little under the weather, and I have every opportunity to just be like reschedule, but I have a goal, 100 interviews. So I'm like, no, I got to show up so I can get to the next interview. I got to show up, one, because we've been waiting for this interview for a minute. Like me and Brian will talk, man. We've had some talks like for hours on end, and by the grace and the glory of God, man, this brother just it amazes me. And I just stand in all of the things that you do. Did your father ever bowl with you? Did you ever guys bowl in like team tournaments or anything like that?
To be honest, we probably went bowled maybe 3 or 4. I can't remember a lot of times that we bowled together, actually.
Wow. So he just dropped you off and like let stay there and watch and got his
Yeah,
popcorn and
man.
coach
No,
you
that
along the
that
way?
to be honest, that was actually the coolest thing about my dad, and I think a lot of parents can learn a lot from my dad. I'm not going to say my dad was perfect, but the one thing that he did do was allow me to fail.
I love it.
So oftentimes, mind you, again, maybe 4 or 5 of us. I'm his son. I probably want to talk to my dad until maybe like the fourth or fifth game of the qualifying block,
Got
and
you.
it wouldn't even be like a coaching session. It'd be more of just like, all right, how you feeling? How you doing? All right, cool. Every once in a while, he may give me a nice little pep talk. He had a way. My dad was not a person that cursed a lot, but I think one time he was like, you better stop throwing the ball like a punk, basically.
we know what punk stood for.
Yeah. Now, one of the things my dad once said to me, he said, it's a difference between bowling or competing not to lose versus competing to win.
Mm.
Because some of
Wow.
us, we do things not to lose.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
we so
yeah.
we play a very protected game. And don't get me wrong, I think even from my own personal experience, I've learned, that's where discernment comes in, right?
Yeah.
Of knowing when to kind of press the envelope versus when to just, take your shot, anything like that, and be aggressive. But I really love that, he said that to me. Actually, one of the most profound things he told me, going back to my point about, me just kind of talking about and complaining about kind of not having enough. My dad said this very simply. He said, "Man, if you want this, you want to go take it.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can't just keep asking people just to give this stuff to you. You gotta just go take it from them."
Yeah. And I bet you, man, that a lot of those kind of quotes there, man, we don't understand how. I was just listening to Myron Golden, and I love how he said communication and imagination is at the top tier, and he based this off the Bible. Um and so I think we forget that those small moments there where we hear things like that quote stuck with you, after all these years, and it's going to stick with me. There is a difference from playing not to lose and playing to win. And so you go with a different mindset, and I can almost be certain that those things that were added into your vault, is what helped you get over the hump. Those things were the things that helped you click because you realize now, oh, I'm playing to win. Like I was, especially when you probably won your first tournament, and then you're like, oh, I can do this again as long as I play to win. I'm coming with a different aspect. I'm coming with a different attitude. And so it sounds like your dad was very instrumental in your journey. Was there anybody else that was instrumental, or was it just your dad that was kind of there by your side?
Yeah, man. No, I would say my dad was the most instrumental. I also followed. He's a professional bowler. His name is Norm Duke. So this guy is, I don't know, maybe 5'6" to 5'8", not a really tall guy, but he was one of the most versatile bowlers. So he could both throw it really straight. He could also throw like a really big hook, but he was an excellent fair shooter. And I think, when people see my logo, they see the balance, they see kind of like the form or whatever. A lot
Yeah,
of that came from him. Just kind of, I studied just how much he perfected his balance. And I
nice.
and I and it's one of those things that I don't get a chance to really talk about it too much when I'm speaking because it kind of it might go over people's heads, but having a solid foundation, that's really what I think about because oftentimes when we're bowling, as a bowler, the conditions out there are different.
Yeah.
And I was talking with a guy about this the other day. I was saying to him how important it is because you only got 10 shots. So you have to throw your best shot each frame to basically get every time I throw a shot, I'm trying to get data back from the lane.
I love that.
So I have to I have to be able to throw an accurate shot so that way that I can get accurate data back. So then that way I can make adjustments.
Ah,
Similar
I
to
love
like
that.
how we talk about in business,
Yeah,
right?
it sounds just like business because business is all data, making
Mhm.
taking your best shot, getting the best data back so you can, reassess, and it's all a science. It truly is. Yeah. So what was so you went from professional bowler to author to entrepreneur to motivational speaker. When did that happen, and what made that part happen in your life?
So I do gotta say I'm not a professional bowler. People, there's levels to this. I always
Okay.
say that, right?
Okay, okay. He's humble
My
too, y'all. Y'all see this.
nah, it's serious because it's one of those things where if I post this in the bowling community, they'll be like, he ain't no professional
Yeah,
bowler. This
right. Where
guy's
he at?
this hard. You know what I mean? There's levels to this, but no. To answer your question, it went from being very focused in the bowling to then my dad actually he passed away when I was 21, so
Mm,
that was a hard time to go through, and I think I was at Temple, took a year and a half off, went to a school called Robert Morris University. In the middle of that time, I got introduced to entrepreneurship. So
mm,
entrepreneurship came in my early 20s, and it was in a form of network marketing. Now, some
okay.
people they call it the pyramid scheme, all that good stuff. I'm not here to debate any of that stuff. Go look it up. There's a lot of information on it, right? But what that really introduced me to was the world of personal development. Like, I had a mentor who, he was around during my bowling, time of bowling, but he wasn't very instrumental into like my high successes. He was kind of toward the end. where we just kind of connected and things like that. So I used to work at a bowling alley, and basically, I remember telling him we were having some type of conversation. I said, "Yeah, man, as an African American man, there's no way that I can be successful other than if I'm, dribbling a basketball or rapping,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
really the only thing that I saw from my
It's
lens."
same here. Same here. Yep.
Now, mind you, this is a white male, probably I think at the time he was probably in his early 30s, and he's like, "Bro, what are you talking about?" And
Mm.
he's like, "Have you ever heard of Damon John?" Like, nope. Ever heard of Les Brown? Nope. And he put me on to, those type of figures. And, again, I'm grateful that I live in the age of the YouTube and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I was able to search some of these guys. And I started hearing Les Brown speak. Les Brown led me to ET, Dr. Eric Thomas, ET, the hip hop preacher. And I got really heavy into the personal development realm, which then I think once he kind of saw that I was taking a liking to it, then he introduced me to network marketing. I had some success in that. It was I don't know, it's probably $1 billion business. I think I wound up getting into like the top 10% of that.
Yeah.
Right. So, doing the work, but what I saw, this was so profound, I was like, this is just like bowling, because I was starting off from the bottom,
Yeah.
but they had a blueprint. They had these tapes and things that I could listen to. They had these strategies that I could use, and I was just like, all right, run the play.
Yeah.
Let's just see if it works. Again,
Yeah.
I'm playing to win, not to lose. So it's just
Yeah.
like, let me just go try it out. And then once it started working, again, I'm getting, it was an electric company, so now I'm getting customers that are not even like people that I knew before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is different. And now
Yeah.
also too, I'm around a lot of, high achievers, successful people.
Yeah.
Me and the company kind of did go our separate ways, but then I got into credit repair. I think I did Uber for about 6 years, and was able to pay off a good amount of credit card debt. I was able to pay off, I think, $15,000 in credit card debt over like a
Wow.
3-year period,
Nice.
right? But a lot of that came from that early 20s after my dad passed away, being really into personal development and really just seeing myself as something bigger than what I was before.
Yeah.
Like, and like almost compounding that with the success that I had in bowling, because I'm thankful, because it was such a long journey. Like it took me 4 to 5 years to quote unquote arrive,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
as far as a bowler. So I was just like, well, man, I did that more or less on my own with YouTube videos and, books. I didn't really have mentors, anything like that. So I'm like, I can only imagine how fast I can go if I have
Yeah.
actual mentorship. And man, like just seeing it up close and personal, I was like, wow. Like, and again, that's kind of how I wrote my book, was just like, success leaves clues.
Yeah, man. Ooh, that's another gem. Success leaves clues. When your father passed, and sorry to hear about that. Like when your father passed, did you stop bowling? What happened then?
Yeah, man. So that was an interesting time, because I was in college at that point. I would say my youth bowling was over. So, because now I'm 21, 22. So now I'm bowling against, adults, you know, and like I would say there was a learning curve. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think it got to the point where I think everything I do always has a purpose.
Mm.
So for me, when I started bowling, bowling was a way for me to pay for college. That's how it started. So I feel like after my dad passed away, and as I got older, once I was in college, it was just like, okay, well, this is no longer the thing,
Mm.
right? So once I got introduced to the personal development side of things, I started to set my sights a little bit bigger, which also meant, okay, well, maybe I can't necessarily practice or bowl, again, sacrifices. I had to just start making some different choices. So yeah, I would say bowling kind of started to fall out of my life maybe around that same time. I did actually, when I did go to the school in Chicago, I did bowl for their team, but I kind of ran into the same issue of just kind of getting to a wall where it's like, okay, do I really want this?
Mm.
Or do I want to pursue, business? And, at that time, I had already racked up a quite amount of debt. So I got a job opportunity to work for Panera Bread, which, I was like, well, I can make money doing this while I'm in school, or I can continue pursuing this bowling thing, and I made a choice. So yeah, man. So I still bowl to this day, but is nowhere close to the level I was,
Mm.
15 years ago.
Do you think if your dad was still around that you would still be bowling more in that aspect?
That's a great question, man. I actually have no idea.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I really have no idea because to be honest, if my dad was still in my life, I might not even be an entrepreneur right now.
Wow. That's
Because so
deep.
my yeah, well, because my dad he wasn't. I mean, he did own a business and he was extremely smart, but he was very conservative too. He was kind of all right. I do
Not a
this,
big
I do
risk
that.
taker. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my dad. I mean, again, my dad was cold. He told me one time. He said I could make hundred thousands of dollars easily. He said, but I wouldn't be able to spend as much time with you then. And I was like, at the time, I'm just like, all right, dad, you just be talking. But no, my dad really meant that. Like
Yeah.
he was more family than he was work. And
Wow.
he did just enough work to allow him to spend time with his family. So my dad, he would again taking us to bowling tournaments. He was at almost all my baseball games. He was at probably most of my basketball games. Like I really do think that I lucked out when it came to,
Yeah.
just fathers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, man, no, I was, and because of that, my dad was my best friend, which meant you could be Warren Buffett probably trying to give me some advice. If dad didn't say it, I don't know if I'm rocking with it. So
Wow.
because of that loss to my dad, like that's why even now when people say sorry for your loss, more times than not I say my dad passing away didn't happen to me, it happened for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if my dad didn't pass away, there's a lot of mentors in my life right now that I probably
That wouldn't
even
have
to
that
my
space. Yeah. They wouldn't have that room. Yeah.
you can't get in.
Yeah. Like you just said, Warren Buffett couldn't even have been your mentor at that space. Yeah. Wow.
Man.
Wow. That's something really extreme to reflect on. So we're here. You paid off your debt, you're working. When did the book come into play? How did that come into play? Did you just wake up and be like, yo, I'm an author. I'm writing a book.
Yeah, nah, man. It's again being in the personal development space, and I actually had a mentor or a person that was I would say relatively close to, not we weren't best friends, but you know he was somebody that I saw, touched, all that good stuff. He wrote a book. I'm thinking about it right now, and to start being in different environments, like
Yeah.
being environment with different authors. I'm like, man, you know what? I would want to write a book one day. And actually, it was about probably I guess 3.5 years ago. I was given an Uber ride to a lady, and she was telling me about her book. And
Mm.
but she was telling me it from a place of, well, I don't really know if I can do it. I do this now. I can't this, I can't that. And this is before I was a, quote unquote motivational speaker.
Yeah.
But I said to her, I said, Les Brown says the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. Because that's where a lot of dreams,
I love
goals,
that
and
quote.
things that,
Yep.
that are never tried, that's where they go and die at.
Yep.
And now, mind you, I said that to her, trying to pipe her up, trying to get her to do her thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, man, Brian, good job. And then as soon as she left the car, man, I was like, well, dad, I guess I can't really keep telling people how to live their life if I'm not going to,
If I ain't practicing what I'm preaching, then I might need
yeah.
to stop preaching.
They call that something. I think even the Bible days they call that a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, well, I can't be a hypocrite out here. So I set out on it, man. And again, all in. So I mean, I think I watched a 10-minute video on YouTube of how to get your book published or something like that. And I'm trying to think. I think one of my favorite books I read when I was younger was called The Compound Effect, and it's about
Mm.
small steps, great distances, more or less, and
Yes.
how that could compound. So, and I learned about it takes 21 days to build a habit.
Yep.
So I just got it. I just made it very, very simple in my head. I was like, you know what? If I could write for 15 minutes a day for 21 days straight, I'll create a new habit that will get me, a lot further than where I am right now.
I love that. I love that.
The other thing that I got, and it might have been from a program that I've invested in. So I hope that's the other thing too, is you got to invest in yourself. The guy talked about leaving when you are writing a book, or I guess when he wrote his book, leaving the last sentence unfinished. So that way you have something to come back to. You don't have to kind of restart the brain. You just kind of read the sentence, like, oh yeah, okay, and just finish it. So I basically
To be
combined those two
continued.
things.
Nice.
I would set a timer every day for 15 minutes a day. I use the, the video that I watched of kind of like how to outline and all that good stuff. And I would just work on it. As a matter of fact, the 15 minutes a day started with me doing research for the book. Like before even
Mm,
writing it, it was just like, okay, set a timer for 15 minutes. I'm going to just work on this thing for 15 minutes. Once that 15 minutes is done, I'm out. I'm done. You ain't got to do no more. If you want to do more, do it. I'll be honest, more times than not, I did not want to do more than 15 minutes. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of days where I didn't want to do anything, and I was like, okay, let's just do 5 minutes.
mm,
And I would set the timer for 5 minutes, and I get to five, and I'm like, well, I could do another five. I get to 10, I'm like, well, I could do another five. Next thing
I
you know, I'm
love
at
it.
15.
I love
And
it.
I'm checking it off every single day, keeping almost like a little tally of like, okay, we did it this day, we did this day. Next thing you know, after I would say almost after about 30 days, I had a book
I was just
that
going
was
to say, how long did it take? So 30 days. Okay. Wow.
about it took me about 30 days. I would say, yeah, somewhere between 30 to 45 days to write it, and took me maybe another 15 to 20 days to edit it. Again, same process, 15 minutes a day. I would not do anything more. I
I
was
love
just
it.
like, okay, we're gonna keep this really, really simple.
I love it.
And so it took me, I would say, approximately 2 to 2.5 months to write the book, but it took me 3 years to publish it
Okay.
because I ran into some different issues between copywriting and actually that was the biggest one. I think, and this is something I've learned for myself, even now, the season I'm in right now. If you can take care of the stuff that you can take care of, because the stuff that you can't take care of can really drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the reason writing the book was so easy to me was because I could control me writing the book.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I first submitted it for copywriting, it takes them 30 days to get back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I lost so the other part of that 15 minutes a day is also about momentum.
Momentum. I was just going to say you lost your momentum there.
I
Yeah.
lost all that momentum, man.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Write
I've
another
been doing
book.
the same thing for the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
What do I do now? And then for them to decline it first, because
Wow.
I got a forward. So the book that people read now is actually not how the book was supposed to be. I actually had a forward from a professional bowler that I had in there as well.
Yeah.
It was like a Q&A type of thing. And they told me because I had somebody else's words in here. Now, mind you, I'm the one that wrote it down. Like I did a video interview with him, and then I wrote it out myself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
like, "Well, since you have somebody else's words in here, you got to do a different type of application." Now, mind you, I asked him. I said, "Okay, well, is that the only thing that's keeping me from getting this book copyrighted?" They said yes. So I said, "All right, you know what? I'm just gonna remove this thing. I don't feel like dealing with this. I'm just gonna move the forward, send it back in just as it is." I get it back 30 days later at another price. I think it was $45, less out of my
Yep.
bank
Yep. Yep.
account. And they say, yeah, so you also use pictures from Google, so we can't copyright that either. I'm like,
But y'all didn't tell me this.
that was in
Listen,
there in the
guys.
first
Yeah.
copy.
Yep.
Why didn't you tell me that before? Again, I'm
Yep.
not even arguing with you. I'm like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I asked you that the first time.
Yeah.
And
And they
I'm gonna
weren't
be
looking
honest,
at
man,
that.
I mean, I basically lost 2 months of momentum right
I was just
there.
going to say 2 months. Yep.
And I was distraught. I was going through relationship issues, man. Honestly, I'm surprised to even say that it really was about a month and a half to 2 months. I mean, I'm not a year and a half to 2 years before picking it back up. But basically, what made me kind of get back into the game was that I started pursuing speaking,
Yeah.
and I was marketing myself as I was getting my website and stuff done as an author because I did write a book.
Write a book.
The book
Yep.
was finished. It was edited, all that good stuff. At the same time, it wasn't published, and I was like, well, let me just dig back in again. 15 minutes. I'm pretty sure I did the same thing, 15 minutes a day, but this time I was like, okay, I just need to get rid of all the photos because I was going to pay for an illustrator. They were going to charge me way too much. At this point, I'm just like, bro, I just want to get this book out here.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
don't gotta
Yeah.
be. It don't gotta be perfect. That's another key. Sometimes it's not about being perfect. It's just about progression, just having the product.
Always say that. I'm always big on it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be perfected. That's one of my favorite sayings. Yep.
So, I was like, all right, how do we just get this book out here? And I took out all the photos. It probably only took me maybe 2 more months, if that, to actually get the book on Amazon.
Wow.
And at that point, I'm almost kind of kicking myself because I'm like, I done wasted 2 years on something that could have just been 2 months. But,
Yeah.
all things work together,
You
right?
live and you
So,
learn, but now you know how to play to win, man. Like now you know how to play to win.
well, and to be honest, not to jump ahead here, I didn't know my girlfriend Taylor at the time,
Yeah.
which means I didn't know you.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
a shirt and things like that, I would have had a book, but I wouldn't have had a brand.
Yeah.
And I got both. And
Yeah.
that all happened probably within a, I don't know, 2-month period.
And isn't that crazy, man? Like how God works. Like I was just having a conversation with somebody and I just said, I'm just sitting here waiting on Jesus. I'm like, I know things are coming because we have a couple of deadlines to meet up with, and some things that need to be paid for. And I'm just like, at this point, I was like, I know it's coming. I know when they, I'm dealing with a company right now that takes a little bit of time to cash out on their invoices. And so I was like, I know that it's coming. It's just I'm sitting here waiting on Jesus. So you're like, but we gotta pay for this now. And I'm just like, well, we can't. So we just gonna sit still and we gonna be
uh,
still like the Bible says. Because I'm
uh,
like, we can't stress it. But I think there was another moment that I went through maybe a year or two ago. I had just landed this contract with this charter school,
mhm,
and the first round of orders that I sent out wasn't my best work,
mhm,
and the principal had hit me back and was just like, yeah, can we meet on this? And at the same time I was doing shirts for a movie premiere for a very close friend who I now do her clothing line. And I'll never
mhm,
forget, I'm working myself to the bone, man, to the core, really like trying to push out these orders. And I had to actually do an event at this charter school that same morning of the premiere. And I'll never forget waking up and God just saying, Jaret, you focused on the wrong things. Like, cause I'm all like, I'm gonna lose this charter school to the biggest contract I ever had, and blah, blah, blah. And God said, Jaret, this ain't what you need to be focused on. That's what you need to be focused on, which was my friend. And I thought that it had to do with her movie premiere because that's what we were currently working on. I say all of that to say is it just wasn't the movie premiere, but this particular friend of mine has put me down with so many other people. I mean, just so many other people that have really become really strong clients in my client list. And
mhm,
now a year, 2 years later, I lost the contract with the charter school because they wanted to go with a different type of printing company, which is fine. No love lost. They still love the services and everything like that. I mean, I was going out of my way. So I was just like, at the end of the day, it's just they wanted something different because I would bring donuts to them. I would give them free shirts. The staff, the front desk loved me. I seen one of them. They like, what happened? Where you at? We don't get our donuts no more. And I'm just like, like, listen, y'all want something different? They ain't bringing you donuts, because I'm very big on customer service and being memorable. But
grass ain't always greener.
yeah, exactly. And so 3 years later, I actually told this friend this morning, I said, listen, I now see what God was telling me about to focus on you because you have brought me into arenas that I would not have otherwise been into. And so
Mhm,
I'm very glad that one, I just focused in, but like you said, the grass ain't always greener. And so people that, if you're in a rut, if you're in a rut, if things aren't working out, that is not a moment to give up. It's just a moment to sit still and still show up.
mhm,
Like that's just the biggest most powerful thing. And so here we are. We're about to wrap up this interview, but you wrote your book. You don't.
mhm.
I also love. I gotta also just pinpoint the process in which you wrote your book. People, you guys, yep, show it up. Yep. One shot at a time. Brian Gaines. Yes, life. I love it. Make sure y'all go get it. We're gonna drop all of the links in there. But I love how you talked about creating the habit to get the job done. A
Mhm.
lot of us, New Year's passed, but everybody has these New Year's resolution, and then you find yourself 2 weeks later not on this resolution kick no more. But that's because you didn't create the habit to get rid of the bad habits that you're trying to replace in the first place. You know what I mean? Like you didn't create the habit. And so even with one of my New Year's resolution, I said, I'm gonna definitely start working out a lot more. I'm not out of shape or anything like that. I just want my body to feel not just toned, but I want my body to feel energized. Like I need energy for all of the work that I do. And so I made a habit. I said, you know what, Jaret, every time you get out of the shower, this is your workout regimen. And so I've been doing that for 15 minutes. I said, just start with 15 minutes every single day. And so now it's like when I get out the shower and I didn't do it, it feels off. You know what I mean? Something feels off. And so I love how you said start off that that habit. And we talked about this too, the book Atomic Habits, which I would definitely recommend that along with The Power of Habits, because our life is nothing but habitual nature. Our life is ran by habitual programs 95% of the day. 95% of the things that we do is all programming. And so we have to understand that if we want to accomplish something new, if we want to get somewhere new, we're going to have to reprogram ourselves, and it's going to take time. It's going to take, that push through, but also know that time is what God, wants and needs it to be. Because like you said, if say, you wrote the book and everything got pushed through, something else in that timeline would have been off. You wouldn't have been able to, connect the brand together and everything like that. So that timeline was like lapsed. That timeline went, a little bit longer because God had something else for you, because he knew what type of person you are. God knew, oh, Brian's going to keep going. Brian's going to push through. Brian's going to get this. So I have this here just perfectly waiting for him. And I tell a lot of my staff too, I'm just like, especially my staff in the Philippines, I'm said, who would have known that we would be connected? Who would have known that the moment I say, oh, I need somebody for video editing, that there was somebody in the Philippines waiting to do some video editing for me, and how all of these things came across. So people, when you're following your dreams, there's somebody waiting for you. God has somebody perfectly positioned, going through almost the same things you're going through in your life, to get them to the perfect position to meet you. So you wrote the book, you got the book out. The book is on Amazon. I know, I do a lot of your merchandise, and I just stand in awe and amazement.
I think you do all. I'm pretty sure you do all my
I
merchandise.
think I do all of it. Okay. and Brian's one of my best favorite, biggest clients too. And Brian, man, he sells out of his merch, man. And just like, I just be amazed by how you get the job done. And like I said, even through you, I gained a few other clients. And so when I was dropping some things off to another bowling alley, I'm looking around, I'm seeing 2-3 of your shirts. I'm like, Brian got the juice. Brian got the juice. People aren't just buying for support; they buying it because it means something to them. Like, they're wearing this to go play bowl, to bowl. And that to me is one of the biggest things of brand connection. And even how you just set up your table and you go there, and we talked about sales tactics and all of those things, man. It's just been a blessing to watch your journey. And like I told you before, I'm here to walk alongside you and just to see it, man, because it inspires me. And that's why I'm very glad that we got the chance to get this interview in and got your story here. So, it's in the books, it's in the records. And I'm sure this is not going to be the last interview either. But before we jump into our fire round questions, because, we went through all of the backstory, we got your book, I do all of your branding, we do the shirts, you see the college one shot at a time. My man comes up with all of this stuff. He's like, you know what? It's Valentine's Day. Let's the Holy Spirit, bro, be moving through you, bro. Like, let's Valentine's Day, love one shot at a time. Life is kicking. Like, everybody, the new phrase is life and right? Life one shot at a time. I love it. And you come up with it, and it's catchy, and people go for it.
Yep. I don't know if they can see it because the camera blurring out a little bit.
It just came in. There it is. Yeah, man, the merch is popping, bro. But what can you say to somebody that is feeling down on their luck? They're starting something off. They're starting something new. Somebody might have passed. They're down. Those spaces we're in when we're down.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you wish somebody would have gave you while you were in that space, and give it to the people out there?
Yeah, man. And to be honest, bro, today is not a perfect day for me either. Right before we got on, man, we talked about the rain. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to you about my finances, bro. Like, I don't want people to get the wrong idea and say, oh man, Brian is killing it out here. Yeah, I'm killing it, but trust and believe, man. I'm walking.
It's a process.
Yeah, I'm walking a lot on faith.
Faith.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
likewise, bro. Likewise, we have these conversations, Chuck.
So for that entrepreneur out there, man, I say it. I got this honestly from when my dad passed away. I've said it so much since. If God woke you up today, then there's more for you to do. So just keep going. It's very simple. It's not a. Even when I speak, more times than not, I got some feedback from somebody the other day where the person said, I knew everything that Brian said, but him saying it just made it more clear or something like that, or just kind of reinforced it. And to be honest, man, more times than not, we need to be reminded more times than we needed, than we need like a whole, retooling or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
just like, hey, you just need to be reminded. And if I could just remind anybody anything, is just that. It's like if you woke up today, then God has a purpose on your life. Like
Yeah.
even if my purpose was to stop today, like
Yeah.
where I'm at, where I am in life right now, God was to say, "Up, you're right, your time is done." Like to know that I was able to do this interview and that this interview will go out and that I will be able to help somebody, that somebody would get something from what I've said, right? That's still something. I
Yeah.
think Paul says it in Philippians, not to get all spiritual on folks, but
Go for it.
he says I've learned the secret to life to be both content and lack and in plenty,
Yeah.
right?
Big facts.
So, I've had a month where I made this is actually before the clothing brand and stuff like that. I had a month where I made $10,000.
Yeah.
Shoot, I had a speaking engagement just recently where I made $3,000. I've now gotten to a point where, my credit score ain't the best and my checking account is in the negative. I got creditors and everything calling me. Like this is
Hmm.
a lot of this stuff is new for me. But God is still God.
Yeah, each and every time, man. And I always point that out. I'm like, I've never been homeless. My lights never been off. Food has never been out of me or my children's mouths. So why would I even expect it to be? Why even, let that false evidence appearing real trick me? Just show up, just keep going, man. And I like how you say that, like, just be reminded. Like sometimes we just need to hear that reminder. So y'all, I hope y'all got that reminder, man. Like God woke you up today. You got purpose.
Something and look for it. That's
Yeah.
the other key there is like look for it. Look, I trust me, right before we got on, I'm like, man, do I really want to do this interview? I'm just got done. Just to
Man,
keep it a book. I just ate about three
same here.
I just ate about three bowls of fruity pebbles. They ain't done a whole bunch of nothing today or whatever. And I'm like, God, like, am I really the person to like give somebody any type of value right now? But to be honest, man, as long as I got breath in my lungs, it also means I got the Holy Spirit in me, which means the Holy Spirit can do a lot.
A
You know,
lot.
people love the logos and the books and stuff like that. Trust and believe, most of this stuff ain't for me. As a matter of fact, like I told you, this balance, like I don't know if I even talked about it in the book. Man, it was a time when I was the kid that always fell off balance in my
Mm,
shot. Like I would throw a shot and I'm going over here or whatever. I had a coach who was, I mean, he would be always on my back of like, well, Brian, if you want to be better, you should do this, you should do this. And if I'm being honest, it just wasn't the right timing.
yeah.
You know what I mean? He was giving me good information, but it just wasn't the right time for me to get that information.
Yeah.
Once
It
I got
happens.
serious about it and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and I started studying the game, and then I saw one of the best bowlers in the world always, you know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
right there with it, I was like, okay, that's something that I can do that can separate me from other people because more times than not, when I watch other people around me, they don't do that. And again, if you can't in bowling, if you can't throw the same shot consistently, like repetitively, you're not going to be successful when things are the most challenging.
Yeah.
If there's anything that somebody could look at in my life for over the last 9 years, and this isn't to be preaching, this is to keep it a buck. Since my dad has passed away, I would say I've been seeking after God daily.
Mm.
Like my favorite verse is Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the
The
kingdom and
kingdom
all
of
its
God and
righteousness,
all will be added.
and everything else will be added to you. And I don't even know what all things, everything look like.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I've done my best, and to be honest, part of it was out of necessity because when my dad passed away, I was lost. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I just lost my not just my dad, I lost my best friend, like the
Yeah.
person that really believed in me. I mean, people would say, man, we look almost alike,
Yeah.
right? Like I lost a lot of purpose when my dad passed away. So
Mm.
for me to be here 9 years later and to be able to affect the lives that I have been able to affect in that 9 year period, it's like, well, God, again, you woke me up. I learned this from
Glory.
my spiritual mentor. You can't wake yourself up. You can't technically, you really can't even stop yourself from breathing, even if you wanted to. Like you had to take something external to, boom, boom,
Yep.
boom, or whatever, jump off, whatever. Like you would have to really try. Like you
Yep.
couldn't just be like, all right, I don't want to be here no more.
Click.
And
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. It don't work like that.
no, like so God is allowing this heart to keep moving. So if
Yeah.
you got up this
Love that.
morning,
Yeah.
it's more for you to do. So just keep moving. Keep
I
going.
love it.
Again, it's not about motivation, it's just about being in motion.
I
So
love it, man. I love it. Well, y'all heard it from Brian Gaines, Mr. Motivation himself, and please, y'all, make sure y'all tap in with Brian Gaines, everything Brian Gaines, and we're gonna make sure that we get his contact information at the end of this interview. But y'all know what this is. It is now time for the fire round questions. So, Brian, I got a couple questions for you. Real easy, fun questions, you know what I mean? And you got 5 seconds to answer them. So here we go. What song gets you hype?
hype. That song like donna donna donna. I.
I think that's a little John John. Yeah, that does it for you.
I can't think of the name. I literally just heard it just the other day too. A Christian version of it. So that's the first one that's on my mind right now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Next question. Where do you find the most peace at?
The most peace in my walk when I, just got some worship music in my ear and yeah, man, just walking.
I love it. I love walking too. People, whenever, because I drive everywhere, but I'm like, I think I parked extra far so I can walk. And so people like, you really walking or you walking there? I'm like, I like walking. Like it clears my head. So I can get with you on that. What's the worst job you ever had?
Worst job I ever had would probably be Panera. Yeah, it was the Panera Bread I worked for in Havertown, man. It's not that they bad, but I had a coworker who literally told me on my first day as a cashier. She said, they put the people that don't matter down here, right? I said,
Oh, dang.
Dang. I said, well, nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
I thought that's his first day.
My name's Brian.
Yeah, man, that was a negative environment. So yeah, that's probably the worst place I've ever worked.
One of my one of the thing quotes I heard a while back ago was that people usually don't leave their jobs, they leave who they work for or who they work with. And that's a real deal, man. That's a real deal.
Yeah, just for context, in case that people want to sue me, I'm not saying Havertown Panera is bad. It's actually, I still go there to this day. The food is, I was just there just yesterday. So the food is good, but I did have a bad coworker who does not work there anymore. So
it gave it a bad experience. It made it the answer in his 5-round question.
What's not defamation or anything like that?
Yeah, no, yes. All disclaimers, add them on. What's the best job you ever had?
I guess what I do now, man.
I knew you had to say
that. As a struggle as it is, to be able to get compensated to do, honestly, man, I was doing this for free in a way for Uber for 6 years. I would have these type of motivation and conversations that I've been having in general. So yeah, man, this is a pretty cool gig that I got right now. It's tough, but I'm still trying to figure that part out. But yeah.
And you got it. You got it. What's the best advice you ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. The first one that came to mind was making a decision.
I love it.
Yeah, it's success. He said to me, successful people make decisions every single day of the week. So if you want to be successful, you gotta learn how to make some decisions.
Just like we both made the decision to show up here. We both were, because I know if I would have said like, yeah, I'm gonna reschedule, like, man, I'm feeling that today. But now we got the juice. We flowing. All right. What's one thing you can't live without?
Pizza.
That came quick.
I want to. Well, pizza. I feel like I should get the answer back. My girlfriend watches. She'll be like, "Dad," I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't say God either, so I messed it up too. But
that's what the fire round is for. I have a friend that like eats at least a whole pizza once a week, and he has to have more than one. But if he has to have at least one, how many pizzas you eat a week?
No, man. I mean, I just got some pizza rolls just recently down. So I mean, it's not just like a pizza slice. I mean, it's pizza rolls, pizza bagels. I mean,
Hot Pockets.
I've been eating pizza my whole life now. So that'd be a tough one to have to give up. I love pizza.
If you could work with anyone, who would it be?
Work with anyone? I actually don't know that one. I mean, I'm working with God every single day, brother. So not to be cliche, but I've learned there's no person on the planet Earth that I would rather be in alignment with than Him. So.
I love it. There you go. You redeemed yourself in the last question. 2 more questions. What's something you learned this week?
I still struggle on rainy days, and I gotta figure that out.
Man, this rain has been drawling. It's killing me, bro. And I hate to say it's killing me, but it's just, it's depressing. Even though I know we need it, I was just thinking about how like the rain, how it's drenching like the dirt for the soil, and like one day of sunlight, all my whole backyard is going to look like a forest because of all of this rain that is received. So it's for a purpose.
Yep.
Last question here. What is the last thing that you Googled?
What did I Google? I don't have it, bro.
All right. Well, it's all good. You got a few out of the few, a good percentage. Brian, man, I appreciate your time here. Thank you for saying yes to the day, man. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for always showing up. Thank you for being an inspiration to all that you are inspiration to. Could you please tell people where they can find you at, where they can find your book, where they can get all of the information, and even if they want to bring you on as a motivational speaker for their students or college or high school or anything, please tell the people right now where they can hook up with you.
B Gaines Inspires, BGAINES Inspires.com. That's where people can book me at. You can also find my merch on that same site. Trying to think. Instagram is B Gaines Inspires, TikTok, YouTube, B Gaines Inspires. Probably if you search Brian Gaines, you're probably gonna find me. Book on Amazon, Life One Shot at a Time. Yeah.
It
I don't know.
is.
Did I answer all the questions?
You answered all the questions, good brother, man. Thank you so much. This has been a dope interview. I know that somebody is better because of it. You guys heard all of the information. Please go follow Brian Gaines and just watch him along the journey, man. His brother's going places and he's not stopping because he always shows up. And for that, this concludes the Interviews with Your Brand Man with special guest Brian Gaines. Guys, thank you so much. Make sure you tap in everywhere. I am your brand man. And make sure you tap in everywhere, Mr. Brian Gaines. Guys, thank you. Love you. Peace.
Peace.
I made it come up. Yeah. I made it come up. Yeah.